Greetings. Welcome to Paris ISD's summer reading program. Today we're going to talk a little bit about how the program works. So by now you should have already received your 10 books, 5 fiction, 5 nonfiction. Plus you also, at the high school level, you probably also received another 5 books that were labeled Literary Element Pack or something like that. Between Mrs. Henry and I, we will be putting out videos for 5 books each. I am doing 3 fiction and 2 nonfiction, and Mrs. Henry is doing 5, and she'll talk about hers, when she makes her videos. So anyway, and one of mine will actually come out of that Literary Elements pack, I believe, but the other ones will come out of that original 10 pack. So I wanted to talk just real briefly about the things that you received in your package. And in your package, you would have received your books, of course, but also a journal that looked like this, and also several activity cards that look like these, yellow and whatnot. For each book, we'll talk about, specifically, what they go over and everything. This one is your reading journal, and here is where you're going to record certain things. On the back here, you have a reading log, and that's where you want to write down all of the books that you read, the 10 books that you read during the program. And here, we have some directions here. And once again, when it comes to the specific books, I'll talk about how to work with this on the specific book. But you have pages that's like this. On the top, they'll say fiction or nonfiction. And this page you can use for any of the 10 books that, regardless of whether they're fiction or nonfiction. On the next page, you have one that said ready, set, text. And that one says fiction. That means that specific activity needs to be done with one of your fiction books. And throughout this whole booklet, there are different activities. And once again, they're labeled for fiction. And then like this page is labeled for nonfiction. And we'll talk about using these for that specific book, through the videos. So I just wanted to give you, just a basic going over of the program. And you want to use this reading journal as well as look at the activities that you have here on this page too as well. So without further ado, let's get back to the book. Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another video. Our book this time is called Come November, and it is by Katrin Van Dam. It is another fiction piece, and okay. And yes, I am back to, my newbie kind of thing going on here. This is the book. It's called Come November. And this, like I said, it's another fiction piece. This one, once again, just like Tarnished Are the Stars, brings in the dangers of climate change. Although instead of being dystopian where, the whole earth is destroyed, this one takes a different little tact. In Come November, we meet our protagonist. Her name is Rooney. She is the daughter of Annalise, and Annalise has joined a cult for environmental change. At any rate, though, this one becomes a little bit difficult for Rooney. We'll talk about that here in a minute. First, I do want to go ahead and talk a little bit about Katrin Van Dam. So she has a website, and this is the website. And as you can see, she is on her website. The first thing that we see on the homepage is promoting the book come November, because this is her newest book. It's a really interesting book. You know, I loved it. I loved it. But let's look a little bit about Katrin Van Dam. I've got a Google Slides that's kind of like a little slideshow that I put together, and the information that I've got about her, came straight from her website. And see, my page is not loading. There we go. And basically, I just looked at the things that she actually posted. This is Katrin Van Dam. And anyway, some of the things that she mentioned, about herself. So she grew up in Rhode Island, and she is the youngest child. She majored in theater studies at Yale. I absolutely adore that. I love that. Theater, when I was in high school, theater was like my thing, because I couldn't play sports anymore. I had an accident. So anyway, I went into theater instead. She's lived her entire adult life in New York. She's married. She doesn't have any children or pets. She says that that's one of the reasons, as you can see, that's why she writes for kids. She does work at a children's media company. She says she's 5'2" on a good day, and this is my first novel. And when we click that, we come to, I'm sorry, my computer is running very, very slowly. So come November is her first book, her first novel, not her first book, her first novel. So anyway, there's some interesting facts about her. I do want to talk a little bit about the environment, because, it is a thing. Climate change is real. There are some things that we can do to help our environment. Of course, we all know about recycling. And I was actually watching a movie last night with my husband, all about clean energy, and some different viable options for clean energy. We kind of just have to trust the scientists to come up, with some ways as far as that goes. So there is a lot that we can do. I really want to talk a little bit about the recycling, because plastic is just absolutely horrible. I came across an article that actually was talking about plastic water bottles. That was very disturbing, and just how, plastic water bottles are just totally polluting the planet. There are different options, that we can do with that. I personally at home, I typically do not buy water. I do have a water filter on my faucet. So that way, predominantly I just drink straight from the tap, from my water, so that I'm not using up bottles. I do have lots of, personal cups and personal, reusable water bottles that, I use constantly, and I take them on my camping trips. So that way I am not using disposable, that just, total trash. I do try to find, other ways. I very rarely ever drink, Cokes. So, but whenever I do buy the cans, so that way, we can crush them up and take them to recycling centers too as well. So those are just, some things that, we do. I don't use paper plates anymore. I used to when I was a few years ago. But yeah, that's just, promoting more trash. We do need to be aware of, our surroundings, so that we don't, contribute, so much to, wastefulness and whatnot. Because we went so much with the online learning and everything, I just took that opportunity to, and I always, I've used Google Classroom for the last few years. That's another thing that I've done. I've tried to kind of move things over to where we're looking at digital things so that we're not like using a whole lot of paper. When it comes to school, there's not much of getting around that. We do rely quite a bit on paper. I do try to do quite a few things though on Google Classroom, so that way I'm not just totally about the paper. So anyway, but yeah. So let's talk. One of the things that's going on in the book, like I said, Annalise, which is Rooney's mother, she has joined a cult. So I did want to talk a little bit about cults, and I got some information from Wikipedia, about cults and and their workings and things like that. And just straight from Wikipedia, in modern English, a cult is a social group that is defined by its unusual religion, spiritual, or philosophical beliefs, or by its common interest in a particular personality, object, or goal. So come November, Annalise is in a cult. Their leader is Everett. And basically, they believe that aliens are going to come and save them from our dying planet. So once again, the whole idea of leaving the planet and colonizing someplace else comes into play here, just like in Tarnished Are the Stars. Anyway, back to the idea of the cult. The sense of the term is controversial, having divergent definitions, both in popular culture and academia, and has also been an ongoing source of contention among scholars across several fields of study. The word cult is usually considered pejorative. In other words, pejorative means that it has a bad connotation. So in other words, if you're a member of a cult, that's a bad thing. So yeah, usually cults are not looked at positively. They are typically looked at negatively. Just some little facts about cults. But back to the idea of Annalise and the one that she is in. The cult that she is in is called the Next World Society. And like I said, they truly believe, and throughout the beginning of the book, when they were talking about having this meeting place, and they were all going to harmonize, and and when they harmonize, they're going to be taken with the aliens. And first I was kind of scared because of my age, I've heard a lot of different cults that have met very bad endings. The first one that really came to mind is they were all meeting together and they were going to harmonize into the spaceship. The first one, and for some odd reason, kind of reminded me of the whole Jim Jones scenario. And if you don't know about Jim Jones, he called himself a prophet. And matter of fact, I believe he went all the way into calling himself basically a savior. I may be wrong about that point, but at any rate, and if you've ever heard of that saying about, oh, you drank the Kool-Aid, that's where that came from, because what they did was, in order to escape and to be caught up into heaven, they all drank a Kool-Aid. It was grape Kool-Aid, and in that Kool-Aid there was a poison. I don't remember whether it was strychnine or now my brain just went like totally blank on that one. At any rate, it was a poison in there, and they all drank that Kool-Aid, and they all died because it was poison. So anyway, that was the first thing I thought. Luckily, that's spoiler alert, that is not what happened to Annalise and Rooney and her little brother. Luckily, they were just like doing this meditation thing, thinking that when they got into this this universal, I guess you could say, wavelength, kind of like the idea of meditation for trying to reach nirvana. That once they reached that, then they would all be, and they harmonized, then they would all be taken into the spaceship. I'm not exactly sure whether they were talking about physically being taken into the spaceship or spiritually. It kind of seemed to me like they were going to be physically taken into the spaceship. I'm not exactly sure, but at any rate, yeah, they were going to be taken in and escorted off the planet by aliens. There was another cult years ago I remember hearing about, but I don't remember what they called themselves. I want to say that there was something that was like it was tied into like the Germans and the Nazis and stuff. I won't swear to that, but at any rate, yeah, they thought that they were going to be taken away on a spaceship too, as well. Um, I remember hearing about that, long, long time ago. Well, I say a long, when I was a kid, I remember hearing about that. But at any rate, yeah, that was another one it reminded me of. There are some warning signs you know, of cult behavior, such as the leader will have absolute authoritarianism without meaningful accountability. We see that with Everett, who is the leader of the New World Society. There is no tolerance for questions or critical behavior. One of the scenes is they go to this rally, and he projects himself from, they see him basically in a video, without knowing where exactly he is, and he doesn't, let his followers know where he is. Because he's had death threats supposedly and whatnot. And therefore there were no questions, no interactions. So yeah. No meaningful financial disclosure regarding budget or expenses, such as independently audited financial statement. Yeah, and Everett ended up taking everybody's money, so spoiler alert there too. Unreasonable fear about the outside world, such as impending catastrophe, evil conspiracies, and persecutions, such as the planet dying, which, I mean, it is. But at any rate, there is no legitimate reason to leave. Former followers are always wrong in leaving, negative or even evil. We didn't hear too much about anybody wanting to leave the cult, but at any rate, come November. But at any rate, I guess some might have. Former members often relate the same stories of abuse and reflect a similar pattern of grievances. There are no records, books, news, articles, or television programs that document the abuses of the group or leader, at least not until everything's over with. Spoiler alert. Followers feel they can never be good enough. The group leader is always right, and the group leader is the exclusive means of knowing truth or receiving validation. No other processes of discovery is really acceptable or credible. This all came from the website culteducation.com, and you can click on that and find the warning signs in that. So to the book. Like I said, I really enjoyed this book. The plot at the beginning, it did seem to move very slowly. The book is organized in chapters, and those chapters are broken down in terms of months. We start off with August, when school is starting. And my heart really went out to Rooney and her little brother, because everybody knew about her mother being in this cult, and they kind of avoided her. The big day was November 17th. And so that's why it was called Come November. So everything was just kind of like all the action was leading up to November 17th. And, and Rooney, she's just wanting to live a normal life as a senior. She is a senior in high school. And she just, really wants that, but, at the same time, she's ostracized. And not only that, she's ostracized herself. She does have a best friend. But one of the biggest problems is that Rooney's mother, loses her job because of the cult. And so, and because of November 17th coming up and their plans and whatnot, she's like, she's just not going to get another job. Why bother? We're leaving Earth. Um, and in the meantime, Rooney, who is very down to earth, all she can see is, well, the bills still have to be paid. So she is working hard. She's working overtime, trying to make sure that the bills are still paid. And in the meantime, she is trying to get into Columbia University, because she's a senior. Um, she has a best friend. Um, his name is Mercer. But she's got a crush on him. And I'm not going to spoil that part of whether or not, they do get to become a couple. But at any rate, yeah, and the book covers all the way until August of the next year. Because needless to say, they do not take off on November 17th to another planet. That's, I guess you could call that a spoiler. I guess maybe because it is a book of fiction or not. So anyway, yeah, but I really enjoyed the book because of the plot. I thought that the plot was very interesting. I really felt for Rooney. The characters were well developed. You were really, it was written in first person so that we're seeing Rooney's point of view. So, those were some really interesting points in the book, to enjoy, points to enjoy in the book. It was very well written. So I did enjoy the book. What I questioned about the book was, well, there were certain aspects, and without being too much of a spoiler, Rooney and her brother end up having to go to live with her teacher because they're technically they're minors. They're still in school. Her brother is definitely a minor. He's like 11, I think. And so anyway, yeah, she goes to live with a teacher. Which did kind of make me question, how the legality of that. She does start connecting with her father. So we saw a little bit of things going on with that. One thing that I kind of questioned was, why Dad didn't just step in and put his foot down and say, no, you're coming to New York. I mean, I understand, he wants to give that choice to Rooney and her brother. It was just, I don't know. That was just a part that kind of like, I guess because I'm a parent and I just couldn't, understand that factor in it. I mean, not that and her teacher was a really good person to open her home to Rooney and her brother. So, it was it was a good alternative because, well, then I'm getting into spoiler. I don't want to spoil it too much. But anyway, I mean, there were just certain things, why Annalise, that in the last chapter, there was a little bit of explanation of why Annalise did the things that she did. I guess, it's because I couldn't understand being in a cult. I couldn't understand that. So, but that's just me. That's just one of those things that, I just have a hard time with that one. But anyway, yeah, come November, very interesting book. So yeah. I hope you enjoy it. Don't forget that, you do have questions and whatnot that you can answer with that, as well as, this page as well too. So anyway, yeah, that's come November. Hope you enjoy it. Have a great day.